What's up guys, my name is Zach and today I am driving a 2022 Kia Telluride S. Up front is a 3.8 liter V6 and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here Telluride because these things sell like hotcakes. It is hard for Kia to keep these on the dealer lots. And so we'll be talking about that a little bit later on, but I'm excited to drive something that sells so well. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers like this retro sticker pack I have available, as well as a big friggin' bottle sticker, both with free shipping. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 3.8 liter V6 under the hood. Well, Kia has used this in a fair amount of vehicles. It makes 291 horsepower. And we saw this in the 2022 Palisade that I drove. You'll see this in like the older Genesis coupes. Things like that. This has been a pretty worked through engine. And so at the end of the day, the fact that Kia is still sticking with it means it's relatively reliable. With that engine, Kia says that you could tow 5,000 pounds with this here Telluride if that's something you'd like to do. Like I said, paired to it, 8-speed automatic transmission. It's nice, comfortable, quiet, and it's doing the job pretty well. Last but not least, this is the front-wheel drive version of the Telluride. Now, you can get all-wheel drive for $2,000 extra, but they are incredibly hard to find at the current moment, just like any car is. And so the owner, Drew, went with the front-wheel drive because he wanted it. Here we are with front-wheel drive, and honestly, 364 days a year, you're not gonna notice that it's front-wheel drive. And on that 365th day, or if it's a leap year, 366th day, just don't go out. Stay home, watch Netflix or Disney Plus, or actually no, watch shooting cars on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Do that instead. You'll be fine. But before we get into the interior, let's talk about the trim levels just for a brief second. So this is the S, which is one tier up from the base. So the very base model of the Telluride is called the LX. Then it goes up to the S, then it goes up to the EX, and then it goes up to the SX. There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to the naming of these vehicles from Kia. The SX, EX, LX, and S, it's kind of a mumbo jumbo of trims. The LX base model does start in the mid-30s, around $35,000, and as you saw at the beginning, this car is around $37,000. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two physical gauges and a screen. On the left is my tachometer and coolant temperature, and on the right is my speedometer and fuel. In the center, I do get a little customizable gauge. Kia puts this in every single one of their products, and I like it. You know, it gives you some good, solid information. However, it doesn't have many colors to it, and it's not that high tech, but that's okay. On the steering wheel, on the left, I have my voice commands mode, phone options, skip track, and volume. And on the right, I have my page button for that center gauge screen, as well as my cruise control options. This does have adaptive cruise control, which is very nice. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent, my gauge dimmer switch, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist buttons, as well as traction control and a dead switch. Moving on to the door, I have my power mirrors, as well as my power window options and power locks. Moving into the center, we do have a Kia infotainment system, so let's pull over and talk about it. All right, so let's talk Kia Telluride infotainment. So we do have some buttons down here. We can search through media. We could also look at map and navigation, which is very, very nice. We can go to menu over here. It is a touch screen, which is fantastic. Can also go home up here, and this does have the updated Kia system. I love these icons. I talk about it in all of the Kias that have it. It's sort of pink and purple. Really love that retro neon look. And something we do have, of course, is the sounds of nature found in most modern Kia products. We have the lively forest, calm sea waves, rainy day, open air cafe, warm fireplace, and snowy village. Other than that, nothing too crazy in here. I do have rear climate controls and quiet mode. Quiet mode is really nice, especially if you have a family, because it then puts all of the music towards the driver and only lets you go to, I believe, 10, volume 10. Does Zach remember it well? Level above 7. Dang it, I was 3 off. Okay, that's okay. So it'll only let you go up to a volume of 7, and it'll put all of the music towards the driver and no one else, in case you have a kid sleeping in the back on a road trip or something like that. I think that's really smart thinking from Kia. Last but not least, we'll put into reverse here. I do have my backup sensors. Those will light up yellow, orange, and red when I am approaching something behind me. And then, of course, we do have the rear camera as well. As I hit the windshield wipers on accident, as you turn the steering wheel, it does change the trajectory of those lines, which is very, very nice. Not all modern cars do that, so it's nice to see here in the Kia. And I do have some other options. I can look straight down. So if you are trailering something, you can look straight down at your trailer hitch, line it up, and then switch back here to the other backup camera. Really, really smart thinking from Kia. Then I get 3 large vents going across the center of the Telluride. I really like that. And I have all of my really nice radio buttons. The reason I say they're really nice is they look like this sort of polished, brushed aluminum. I know that they're not, but they look good and they feel nice and solid as well. I don't feel like I'm gonna put my finger through the dashboard, which I do on some other makes and models. Then I have the climate controls. The climate controls are rather wide. However, I do get dual zone climate, and I like the way it lights up red and blue for the temperature. It has this nice tone to it. Overall, I'm really happy with the appearance of all of this. Moving on to the center console, a couple things I love here, a couple things I don't. I love the heated seats off to the left and right. I have heated seats for the driver and passenger. Fantastic, and in a vehicle this size and this price, I definitely want heated seats. But then in the center, we get this openable center console, and something I really don't like is the lid of it is piano black, meaning it shows all of the fingerprints. However, you would probably open this and honestly just leave it open to access what's inside, which we'll get to in a second, but piano black in any car just really, really bothers me. But once we're inside that compartment, we do have a 12-volt outlet off to the left, USB charger on the right, and your USB in for the radio in the center, as well as you do get a wireless charging pad. Now for the S, one trim level up, getting a wireless charging pad is very, very nice. Moving on to the shifter is the same shifter you'd find in any Kia in the last 5 years. It's a pretty standard shifter. However, that being said, I like the feel of it. Down below that, I do have my drive mode select. So I have Smart, Eco, Comfort, and Sport mode, which gives me some nice customization. Of course, Smart mode will learn your driving habits and sort of pick the best one for you. I have a feeling mine would be sport mode. Then I do get automatic start stop on and off, my auto holding brake, my power parking brake, and my parking sensors on and off. Some great features and customization there because I hate the automatic start stop feature in cars. I could turn it off and be done with it. But off to the right, I do have cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2022 Kia Telluride. And of course it fails. Here's a list of modern Kias and how they stacked up with the big friggin' bottle test. And as you can see, it's pretty par for the course at this point. Then I do get a large center console, and then we'll talk about the seats. Like I said, they are heated and they are power adjustable. Now they are not memory seats, unfortunately. However, the power adjustments and the heat definitely make up for it, and they're very comfortable. Speaking of which, however, we do have back seats, 2 more rows of back seats. So let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2022 Kia Telluride S, and a couple of things to note back here. First of all, plenty of knee space. I did move the seat up a little bit because I actually dropped the key underneath the seat on accident. I'm sorry, Drew. But even with the seat in its normal position, great leg room. I have 2 cup holders here. I have a 12-volt outlet down there. And of course, we do have the third row we'll talk about. I actually do have a vent up here, and I can control my own temperature up here. I could do temperature, fan speed, location, whatever I want. But something I wanted to talk about with these back seats is that I'm currently sitting in what's called a captain's chair, meaning I get my own seat with, this is my armrest, this is my little area. You could also get a Kia Telluride with a bench seat, which, as the name suggests, would be a bench that goes the complete width of the Telluride and would have a middle seat, making it an 8-seater, while this is actually technically only a 7-seater. That's the difference between the LX base model and when you go up to the S, you get the captain's chairs as opposed to the solid bench from the standard level. So I prefer these captain's chairs. However, if you have a larger family, you need that one extra seat. You can definitely find that in a Telluride. Speaking of extra seats, however, let's go hop into the third row. And just as I pretty much suspected, the third row for me, a big guy, is not fantastic. However, it's not awful. If I put my knees here in the aisle, it's manageable. If you have kids, this third row will work. However, I would highly suggest if you have a big family, the Kia Carnival minivan, as shown here in beautiful red, is a great option and a lot easier accessible back seats. Just saying, I really like the Kia Carnival minivan. If you want to stick with Kia and you have a big family, I'd recommend that. However, if you have 1 or 2 kids and they might bring a friend every once in a while, you're not going to depend on these back seats. They're perfectly fine. And of course, for children, they're going to be fine. I'm no longer a kid, no matter how much I tell my parents otherwise, so I don't really fit well back here, but you get the point. I do have USB chargers over here. I have cup holders as well. And I do actually get vents up in the ceiling. Very, very nice. Kia didn't totally forget about the third row. Very nice to see. Let's go hop around back. We'll talk about the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the 2022 Kia Telluride S. Hold it here on the key fob, and unfortunately, it does unlock it, but we don't have a power tailgate. That is something that the upper trims do get. We just get these regular gas struts. But once we are back here, we do have this nice Telluride sort of cover here. We can pull this up, and you do have some decent, actually very good storage back here. Big fan of that. Then I do have these pull straps for these back seats. Put these seats down just like that. Oh, no. There we go. They are not power, so if you do have a bad back, reaching in and pulling those up might be a little tricky. Except we do have power folding down for the second row. So, look at that. Fantastic. So we do get power and a 12-volt outlet for the second row, just not for the third row. Really, I'm making a YouTube video. Can you be quieter? Anyway, great storage options here. The Telluride is the larger of the Kia SUVs, and you really notice that in the very back. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is where I'm a little bit on the fence. This is finished in dark moss, which is a very interesting color. I actually really like this color. It's sort of a muddy green, which dependent on the light, it's gonna look differently. Unfortunately, I'm filming it here on an overcast day. You really gotta see this color in the sunshine. I think it'll change your opinion on it if you don't like it now. But my little critique of the Telluride is that it does look a little bit dated for 2022. I don't know what it is. I couldn't point to one single thing, and next year, 2023, it actually is getting a refresh with a slightly different front end, and it'll get the larger digital dashboard. But I think even still, even with the update coming next year, I think it still looks just a little bit dated. It's a little understated, not very flashy. However, for some people, that's what you might be looking for. If you're looking for an understated SUV, here you go. But now let's get to my final thoughts here on the Kia Telluride S. And that S is important because this is not a fully loaded Telluride. However, I do feel like the S is the best value for your dollar. You get some nicer features like the heated seats, like the wireless charger, like a sunroof, and the captain's chairs we talked about. However, you're not overspending. You're not going to be into the $40,000 range, which at that point, you're essentially paying for a Hyundai Palisade. I think the S is really good bang for your buck, especially in the third row segment of vehicles. I recently reviewed a 2021 GMC Acadia Denali. That car was almost $60,000 for a V6 3-row SUV. Now granted, that had all-wheel drive, sure, but it cost almost $20,000 more. Actually, more than $20,000 more than this. Is that car $20,000 more car than this? No. This is great value. And that's why in the last year or so, I've really been directing people to Kia when they're looking for vehicles. If they want something affordable, presentable, and get their money's worth, Kia is one of the best brands to be doing it right now. Is this the most exciting car I'll review this calendar year? No. But I think for actual genuine consumer advice, I would say that this is a very good car at its price point, and for the features you get, you can't really go wrong. Reliable engine, great features, and honestly, Kia is really making themselves out to be a very good brand. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Drew for letting me take out his 2022 Kia Telluride S. I'm so glad I was finally able to get back in the seats of a Telluride. It's been a couple years since I reviewed one. I reviewed them when they were hot off the presses. And now seeing them a couple years later, I have to say I'm relatively still impressed. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.